We don't want to have that not happen. Okay.
The producer, well, the producer, one of the producers, Roger Stevens, was abroad, but he had an assistant, a lady named Sylvia Drewley, and she sort of represented him. And the original lyric of Geoffrey Krupke ended with Geoffrey Krupke, you, because I wanted to be the first person to use a four-letter word in a musical. But of course, looked over and Sylvia Drewley's face had turned the color of a sheet, and which I thought was perfectly fine. I thought, shock people, that's great. But Goddard came over to me at the end and he said, I think you're gonna have to change that. I said, oh, come on, you really gonna worry about shocking people? He said, no. It's just that if you use that, the record cannot be shipped over the state line and can only be sold in New York State. Oh, so changed it to Krupp U. On West Side, I ran into another word problem because nobody had told me that schmuck also was a word that could not be shipped over the state line. So I had to change the quatrain while I was in the studio, again, at Goddard's request. Goddard's recording sessions were very jolly because he had a sharp, funny sense of humor, very sarcastic. But, no, people laughed and he was a gent. No, I think everybody liked working. I was responsible during the West Side Story session for I represented Lenny because he was abroad with the Philharmonic in Israel, and so and I was a kid and I was terrified, but Goddard made me feel very confident, and I was able to make suggestions about tempos and things like that. Goddard's theory, as you probably know, was that since the listener had nothing visual to distract him, it was all listening. Virtually every song was played maybe up to a quarter faster than it was on the stage, certainly all the dance music. And I warned Lenny, I wrote him a letter, and I said, you're going to be shocked at some of the tempos, but I did approve them because Goddard is very convincing about their being faster on the recording than they are on the stage. And Lenny was upset. Upset may be too big a word, distressed.
A little inside scoop there. And again, the gang, the visualizations of the gang, the violence on the stage, which now we all accept, but in 1957, when it was new, the cultural clashes and the violence of West Side Story sent audiences scrambling. Interestingly enough, in 2009, I believe it was, there was a revival of West Side Story where Lin-Manuel Miranda was called upon to translate two songs into Spanish. One was I Feel Pretty, and the other was A Boy Like That. It really didn't do much for the piece, and they quickly abandoned it after it was done. But, the whole style of West Side Story with the Puerto Rican kids had this amazing clash when the satire of what we believe in American culture took place. The bilingual cast of West Side Story actually did this section in concert. And we all know the song, we all love it, but it says so much about our culture clash here at home.
Flying. I like the island Manhattan. I know you do. Smoke on your pipe and put that in. Mira, mami. I like to be in America. Okay, by me in America. Everything free in America. For small fee in America. people in each room. Automobile in America, chromium steel in America, wires buckwheat in America,
A very big deal in America.
bueno mami bueno, carajo.
I'll drive a Buick to San Juan.
If there's a road you can drive on.
I'll give my cousins a free ride.
Gracias. How you get all of them inside?
In my green toast to America. Many hellos in America.
Nobody knows in America. Puerto Rico's in America.
I'll take a TV to San Juan.
If there's a carrot to turn on.
I'll give them the washing machine.
What have they got there to keep clean?
I
like the shores of America, comforting doors in America, down on the doors in America, wall to wall doors in America.
When I will go back to San Juan.
When you will shut up and get gone.
Everyone there will give big cheer.
Everyone there will have moved here.
By the way, the conductor is Paul Gemgiani, who's one of the go-to Broadway conductors. He's extremely well regarded, and you may have actually seen his son, who has done a great many Broadway roles. He did Mr. Snow in the recent production of Carousel, and he's been in concert here at Strathmore before. He's just an outstanding. Then again, we have this interesting commentary on the brand new West Side Story that was done by Ivo Van Hove. You'll hear some interesting commentary about it. Ivo Van Hove specializes in using lots of video. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you'll hear some impressions here of this. This is taking West Side Story to the current era, and of course we're all awaiting the Spielberg film, I guess, the remake of the movie.
This is not the West Side Story you remember. A new production of the beloved musical premiered on Broadway Thursday night.
One of the greatest musicals of all time has been reinvented for the modern audience.
Inside Edition digital reporter Lee Sheps interviewed Alec Baldwin and his wife Ilaria on the red carpet.
I'm interested to see what they've changed. I'm told it's changed.
Liev Schreiber brought his kids. There are major differences between the original, which was made into an Oscar-winning movie in 1961, and this new grittier version. The iconic finger-snapping choreography? Gone.
Terrible time in America.
You forget I'm in America.
In fact, all of the original dancing is gone. even Rita Moreno's classic rooftop dance. Also cut from this production,
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
but all the other songs are still in the show. Also new for this 2020 production, giant projection screens.
A very different West Side. But you know, there were other productions that focused on culture clash and immigration. And Rodgers and Hammerstein, who had some major disasters after The King and I, there are two musicals that they wrote after that, Me and Juliet and Pipe Dream, both were disasters for them. They did not make any money, and they're mostly forgotten today. So they wanted to go back and do something exotic. So they focused on the book, Flower Drum Song. However, the book was way too dark. So they decided to change and lighten the mood quite a bit. Flower Drum Song, Rodgers cast it, really felt that Chinese people were too, Asian people were too shy to be on stage, and they couldn't find any Asian actors. So what they did was they cast some of the leads. Larry Blyden, for example, a well-known comedian and actor at the time, was cast in the part. However, Larry Blyden was an American Caucasian actor, and they drew slanted eyes on him to make him look Asian, something that would never be tolerated today. However, this was a clip to get and truly a wonderful score that Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote.
I will sing a flower drum song. This is a Chinese flower drum. While I sing, I will caress the flowers. If my song is good, give me a little applause. If my song is bad, give me applause too. 100 million miracles. 100 million miracles are happening every day. And those who say they don't agree are those who do not hear or see. 100 million miracles. 100 million miracles are happening every day. One man writes a poem, other writes music to fit the poem. A singer put words and music into his heart and throw his heart to the world. That is a miracle. In Flower Drum Song, nephew discusses a Chinese love poem with his aunt. That is a miracle. Here are two singers, Juanita Hall and Ed Kenny.
It starts along the Huang Ho Valley.
Ah, yes, I remember. Along the Huang Ho Valley, where young men walk and dream, a flower boat with singing girls came drifting down the stream.
I saw the face of only one come drifting down the stream. You are beautiful, small and shy. You are the girl whose eyes met mine just as your boat sailed by. This I know of you, nothing more. You are the girl whose eyes met mine
Actors Equity would never allow this today, and that's because of Miss Saigon. We'll get to that later, perhaps. But, you know, he was obviously not Asian, and Juanita Hall, who was the original Bloody Mary, by the way, she was not Asian. However, Fiorello, the story of Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, highly fictionalized, changing his life, and his widow was still alive, so they had to get her to sign off on when the first wife died and so on and so forth. But there's some wonderful political satire in Fiorello, and this is one example.
What do you say, Ben? Want a hand?
No, you guys go ahead. I got too much on my mind to play poker.
King bets.
Cost you 5. Tony, up to you. Hey, Tony, what are you gonna do?
I'm in.
So am I. Likewise.
Me too.
Hit me with a king.
Gentlemen, here we are, and one thing is clear. We gotta pick a candidate for Congress this year.
Big Ace.
Ace bets.
You'll pay through the nose.
Okay, where do you stand? I'm in. So am I.
Likewise.
Here goes.
Possible straight, possible flush, nothing.
Gentlemen, how about some names we can use? Some qualified Republican who's willing to lose.
How's about we should make Jack Riley the guy?
Which Riley are you thinking of, Jack B or Jack Y?
I say neither one. I never even met him.
I say when you got a pair of jacks, bet up.
Politics and poker, politics and poker. Shuffle up the cards and find the joker. Neither game's for children, neither game is rough. Decisions like
Who to pick?
how to play, not to bet,
when to call up.
All right now, fellas. Politics or poker, which is more important?
Paratrays,
bet 'em.
little trays, good as gold.
Stop stalling. I'll stay. Raise your 5.
I'll call.
I'll fold.
I'll raise your back.
I think you're bluffing.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Okay, I'm in.
Gentlemen, knock it off and let's get this done.
Try Michael Panyashikovich, I'm certain he'd run.
Mike is out. I'm afraid he just wouldn't sell. Nobody likes a candidate whose name they can't spell.
How about Dave Zimmerman?
Davey's too bright.
What about Walt Gustafson?
Walt died last night.
How about Frank Monahan?
What about George Gale?
Frank ain't a citizen and George is in jail.
We could run out Wallenstein.
He's only 23.
What about Ed Peterson?
You idiot, that's me!
Politics and poker, politics and poker, playing for a pot that's mediocre. Politics and poker, running neck and neck. If politics seems more predictable, that's because usually you can stack the deck.
Now, that's just such an incredibly great piece of satire. Bach and Harnack really understood. And this is the original cast, again, doing one of the great moments. They knew they were going, the politicians were going to have to go to trial because of the Tammany Hall scandals. And this is a great number.
Fiorello was a 1959 Broadway musical about Mayor Fiorello H. LaGuardia and political corruption in New York City in the 20s and 30s. Its show-stopping number was called Little Tin Box, and it had to do with politicians who took graft and bribes. Thank goodness our politicians today don't do that sort of thing. So Little Tin Box is about something that hasn't happened in decades. But here it is anyway, performed by Mr. Howard Da Silva of the original cast of Fiorello and his crooked cronies.
Your witness. ask you a question. It's amazing, is it not, that the city pays you slightly less than $50 a week, yet you purchase that private yacht.
I am positive your honor must be joking. Any working man can do what I have done. For a month or two, I simply gave up smoking, and I put my extra pennies one by one into a little tin box, a little tin box, and a little tin key unlocks. There is nothing unorthodox about a little tin box.
About a little tin box.
About a little tin box. In a little tin box, a little tin box that a little tin key unlocks. There is honor and purity,
Lots of security.
in a little tin box.
Hey, where do you think you're going? Get back here. Give it to him. Mr. Y, you don't feel well, and we know you've lost your voice. But we wonder how you manage on the salary you make to acquire a new Rolls Royce.
You're implying I'm a crook, and I say no, sir. There ain't nothing in my past I care to hide. I've been taking empty bottles to the grocer, and each nickel that I got was put aside.
That he got was put aside
Into a little tin box, a little tin box that a little tin key unlocks. There is nothing unorthodox about a little tin box.
About a little tin box.
About a little tin box.
In a little tin box, a little tin box, there's a cushion for life's rude shocks.
There is faith, hope, and charity.
Hard-won prosperity in a little tin box.
Hey, get him back here.
Okay, give him hell, Judge. Mr. Z, you're a junior official, and your income's really low. Yet you've kept a dozen women in the very best hotels. Would you kindly explain how so?
I can see your honor doesn't pull his punches, and it looks a trifle fishy, I'll admit. But for one whole week I went without my lunches, and it mounted up, your honor, bit by bit.
Up your honor, bit by bit.
Just a
Little tin box, a little tin box that a little tin key unlocks.
There is nothing unorthodox about a little tin box.
About a little tin box.
About a little tin box.
A little tin box, a little tin box,
All glitter with blue chip stocks. There is something delectable,
almost respectable, in a little tin box. In a little tin box.
I mean, it's absolutely brilliant satire, and Bach and Harnick again understanding how to convey an impression of the American political system. Now, Tenderloin was going to be their follow-up. George Abbott and Jerome Weidman were going to write the book. George Abbott was going to be in charge. It was the story of the Tenderloin District, the red light district on the Lower West Side of Manhattan in the 1890s. And it focuses on a reverend who wanted to break up the neighborhood, but the politicians who were on the take for keeping these prostitutes working didn't want to see it disappear. Now, Hal Prince produced it. And what was so interesting, Hal Prince says, here you can get a musical with great reviews, and it doesn't reach an audience.
Why can't this damn do-gooder keep his hands off little old New? Little old New York is plenty good enough for me. Good enough for me. Good enough for me. Little old New York is plenty good enough for me. Keep your hands off little old New York. Don't want no Bible spout, gospel shout. Read your nose and around. Drawing everything up, closing everything down. Don't want no roly-poly, holy-poly, purifying the tongue. Not so new.
Now, that was Cheetah Rivera, of course, and the other lead actress was Leland Palmer, who was a protege of Bob Fosse's, actually, in Pippin. But this was Little Old New York. Now, again, prostitutes were not exactly a popular subject for musicals, and that could have been why it never reached an audience. Milk and Honey, the story about a group of American widows who go off to Israel in search of husbands. This, too, focused on a different kind of cultural clash. And, here's this wonderfully satiric song with Molly Picon, who was a star of the Yiddish theater, but crossed over and became quite popular because of Milk and Honey. This song says a lot about culture and potential immigration.
So you see, boys, our main purpose in being here in Israel is to form a marriage between the two cultures, male and female. Mrs. Siegel, Cincinnati, finds it oh such a comfort to believe. Though she came here, Mrs. Siegel, Cincinnati, she may come home, Mrs. Levy, Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv, Mrs. Levy, Tel Aviv, Mrs. Levy, she may come home, Mrs. Levy, Tel Aviv.
Mrs. Perlman, Jersey City, has been thinking how lovely it would be to send home a postal card to Jersey City and to sign it Mrs. Cohen Galilee.
Galilee, Mrs. Cohen, Galilee, Mrs. Cohen, and to sign it Mrs. Cohen Galilee. And Mrs. Kessler found out that Mrs. Strauss is wearing gold blue garters and a borrowed blouse. And Mrs. Breslin has been as busy as a bee, rehearsing an Israeli lyric for Oh Promise Me.
Mrs. Weinstein, Chattanooga, likes authentic Israeli atmosphere. When the tour is behind her, she'd have something to remind her if she carried home a 6-foot souvenir. Now Mrs. Breslin would like a dark roué, and Mrs. Strauss likes temples that are turning gray, and Mrs. Kessler would like a mustache and a cleft.
And what would you like, Clara?
I'd like anything that's left.
You are a wonderful group.
Well, you get the idea of that cultural clash. Now, in 1962, Irving Berlin comes back to the Broadway stage. He had not had any success at all since Call Me Madam in 1951. As a matter of fact, he developed a severe writer's block where he really just didn't feel that he could write anything. And he writes a musical that is a political satire, again, something that he accomplished so beautifully with Call Me Madam. He thought he would go back to it, about a president who emulates John Kennedy with his very beautiful wife. This was a major disappointment. It did not do well. It ran for about a year on Broadway, but it was really not a pleasant experience for anyone involved. And that's really quite a shame.
Mystery guest in just a moment, but first, here is a word from our sponsor. And now we come to the special feature of our program, the appearance of our mystery challenger, for which, as you all well know, the panel is always blindfolded. Are those blindfolds all solidly in place, panel?
Yes, lady.
Good. Will you enter, mystery challenger, and sign in, please? All right, panel, as you know, in the case of our mystery challenger, a different form of questioning, one question at a time, in turn, moving clockwise. And let's begin with Mr. Belafonte.
Are you in the entertainment field?
Are you in the entertainment field?
Yes.
Miss Kilgallen?
Are you British?
Are you British? No. 1 down and 9 to go, Mr. Sir.
Are there more than one of you?
Yes.
Miss Francis?
Are you a man and woman?
Oh, yes.
As opposed to two women, that is.
Yes.
Which I'm always opposed to.
Larry?
Are you in the field of sports?
Well, no, not really.
2 down and 8 to go, Miss Kilgallen.
Are you in show business?
Yes. Mr. Sir?
Would you have any connection with a great big fat hit that has very recently come to town?
Well, yes.
Well, I guess Bennett has it. And
Pass it on our way.
anybody that has an opportunity certainly ought to see these people on the stage. It
Don't
is the
be
big
so
guy
smart,
like
Arlene.
Nanette Fabre. And is it Bob Ryan
Bob
with
Ryan?
her?
You're right.
You have to remember that What's My Line was used to promote all kinds of Broadway events and movies, and the mystery guest was part of that. Mr. President did not get good reviews, so referring to it as a great big hit was sort of a stretch. And, on What's My Line, they knew what their jobs were. Also interesting to see Harry Belafonte, a person of color, on the panel. That was unusual as well. The musical No Strings, again, talked about culture clash. The idea of a gentleman from Maine who was a writer falling in love with a Paris model 25 years his younger, who just by coincidence happens to be cast as a black woman. It has nothing to do with the story at all. Richard Rodgers making this his big return after the death of Oscar Hammerstein. The No Strings referring also to the orchestra that was on stage, all brass and timpani, without any string instruments. What gave No Strings a bit of success was the controversial casting. It was a real eye-opener at the time. And of course, one of the songs that became a huge hit.
The sweetest sounds I'll ever hear are still inside my head. The kindest words I'll ever know are waiting to be said. The most entrancing sight of all is yet for me to see, and the dearest love in all the world is waiting somewhere for me. Is waiting somewhere for me.
Rodgers never has a success again after that, really. It wasn't much of a success for him at all, except that he did create 2 hit songs from that. Everybody recorded The Sweetest Sounds. Oliver, of course, talking about the cultural clash in London, the clash between the classes, the clash between different cultures, and, certainly the way that the Jewish character Fagin was portrayed in the Dickens novel translated more to a comic character. And this is Ron Moody, who created the part, done in
A man's got a heart, hasn't he? Joking apart, hasn't he? And though I'd be the first one to say that I wasn't a saint, I'm finding it hard to be really as black as they paint. I'm reviewing the situation. Can a fella be a villain all his life? All the trials and tribulation. Better settle down and get myself a wife. And a wife would cook and sew for me, and come for me, and go for me, and go for me, and nag at me. The finger she would wag at me, the money she would take from me, a misery she'd make from me. I think I'd better think it out again. A wife you can keep anyway. I'd rather sleep anyway. Left without anyone in the world, and I'm starting from now. So, how to win friends and to influence people? So how? The situation. I must quickly look up everyone I know. Titled people with a station who will help me make a real impressive show. I will own a suite at Claridge's and run a fleet of carriages and wave at all the duchesses with friendliness as much as is befitting of my new estate. Good morrow to you, magistrate! Magistrate. I think I'd better think it out again. So where shall I go? Somebody! Who do I know? Nobody. All my dearest companions have always been villains and thieves. So at my time of life, I should start turning over new leaves. I'm reviewing the situation. If you want to eat, you've got to earn a bob. Is it such a humiliation for a robber to perform an honest job? So a job I'm getting, possibly. I wonder who my boss will be. I wonder if he'll take to me, what bonuses he'll make to me. I'll start at 8 and finish late at normal rate and all, but wait, I think I'd better figure. What happens when I'm 70? Must come a time, 70, when you're old and it's cold, and who cares if you live or you die? Your one consolation's the money you may have put by. And the bad and I shall stay. You'll be seeing no transformation, but it's wrong to be a rogue in every way. I don't want nobody hurt for me or me to do the dirt for me. This rotten life is not for me. It's getting far too hot for me. There is no in-between for me, but who will change the scene for me? Don't want no one to rob for me, but who will find a job for me?
You can see the classism here as well. Anyone can whistle. You really, probably many people have never heard of it, but it was very cutting edge at the time. Stephen Sondheim and Arthur Lawrence writing a political satire about a female mayor in a town that went broke, and she decides to stage a fake miracle there so everyone will want to come to the town and she can then get reelected. The music, thank goodness, was recorded because it is the music that Sondheim wrote that really is so incredibly special. And this music wasn't supposed to, go away because it was recorded the day after the musical closed. Imagine how horrible it was to know that the day after you were no longer going to get paid, you had to go in one last time and record all of this music. Well, a few people have said to me, Steve, you aren't singing on these anymore. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a try this morning. The reason I haven't been singing is I worry about the sound pickup. And I also feel like I'm singing to a vacuum. But I guess this is what radio performers used to do. So I'm going to try it this morning, and you all can tell me if it works. But, well, we got to get the music first. Now, that's different. Hold on 1 minute. We'll get there. Anyone can whistle, that's what they say. Anyone can whistle any old day. Easy. It's all so simple. Relax, let go, let fly. So someone tell me why can't I can dance a tango, I can read Greek easy. I can slay a dragon any old week easy. What's hard is simple, what's natural comes hard. Maybe you could show me how to let go, lower my guard, learn to be free. Maybe if you whistle for me. One of my favorite stories about Anyone Can Whistle, of course, this musical that ran 8 performances, sort of become a cult thing to see once in a while. The script is just so badly written that you lose track of what's going on. But in any event, I was on a cruise ship and a man came up to me after one of my lectures and he said, Steve, I saw all 8 performances of Anyone Can Whistle. I said, oh my gosh, how did you do that? I've never met anybody that's even seen one. He said, well, I was working my way through NYU and I was an usher at the theater where Anyone Could Whistle was performing. That's how he saw those performances. Another musical that talked about, well, what could we say? Politics was Ben Franklin in Paris, and how he was almost sent to the guillotine because of his bad behavior. It starred an Ulla Sallert with Robert Preston, and no one really has seen it much since, but it sort of had a go at its day. Now, Fiddler on the Roof truly talked about cultural differences. And, again, when Fiddler on the Roof was written by Bach and Harnick and Joseph Stein, they really did not understand the universality appeal of the story and how it was everybody's story at the time. And, would a story about a Jewish shtetl in the Ukraine really translate to anybody other than the Jewish audience in New York? Of course, we all know the answer to that. But this particular opening number may be one of the best ever written, as performed in Australia, by the way, truly set the pace for what Fiddler on the Roof would become, a metaphor for everybody's family story.
A fiddler on the roof. Sounds crazy, no? But in our little village of Anatevka, you might say every one of us is a fiddler on the roof, trying to scratch out a pleasant, simple tune without breaking his neck. It isn't easy. You may ask, why do we stay up there if it's so dangerous? We stay because Anatevka is our home. And how do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in one word. Tradition!
Tradition, 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 tradition.
Because of our traditions, we've kept our balance for many, many years. Here in Anatevka, we have traditions for everything. How to eat, how to sleep, how to work, how to wear clothes. For instance, we always keep our heads covered and always wear a little prayer shawl. This shows our constant devotion to God. You may ask, how did this tradition start? I'll tell you. I don't know, but it's a tradition. Because of our traditions, everyone knows who he is and what God expects him to do.
Who day and night must scramble for a living, feed a wife and children, say his daily prayers, and who has the right, as master of the house, to have the final word at home? The Papa! The Papa! Tradition! The Papa! The Papa! Tradition!
You must know the way to make a proper home, a quiet home, a kosher home. Who must raise a family and run the home, so Papa's free to read the holy book.
The Mama! The Mama! Tradition! The Mama!
I started Hebrew school, at 10 I learned a trade. I hear they picked a bride for me, I hope she's pretty.
The sons, the sons. Tradition. The sons, the sons. Tradition.
And who does Mama teach to mend and tend and fix, preparing me to marry whoever Papa picks?
The daughters, the daughters. Tradition. The daughters, the daughters. Tradition. Day and night must travel for a living, feed the children, say his prayers, and preach the right, as master of the house, tell the right family at home. She's the Papa. Tradition. The fathers, tradition.
And in the circle of our little village, we have always had our special types. For instance, Yenta the matchmaker.
Avram, I have a perfect match for your son, a wonderful girl.
Who is it?
Rochel, the shoemaker's daughter.
Rochel, she's almost blind. She can hardly see.
Tell the truth, Avram, is your son so much to look at? The way she sees and the way he looks, it's a perfect match.
And Nachum the beggar.
Arms for the poor, arms for the poor.
Here, Reb Nachum, is 1 kopeck.
1 kopeck? Last week you gave me 2 kopecks.
I've had a bad week.
So, if you've had a bad week, why should I suffer?
And most important, our beloved rabbi.
Rabbi, may I ask you a question?
Certainly, my son.
Is there a proper blessing for the Tsar?
A blessing for the Tsar? Of course. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. May God bless and keep the Tsar. far away from us.
Then there are the others in our village. They have a much bigger circle. His Honor the Constable, His Honor the Priest, His Honor many others. We don't bother them, and so far they don't bother us. And among ourselves, we get along perfectly well. Of course, there was the time when he sold him a horse and he delivered a mule, but that's all settled now. Now we live in simple peace and harmony. It was a mule.
It was a horse!
It was a mule!
No, I tell you, it was a horse!
Superman all over the
Tradition. Without our traditions, our lives would be as shaky as a fiddler on the roof.
Again, telling so much culturally about a community and how that impacted everyone. Now, the Man of La Mancha really is not about culture clash in the bigger purpose. It's more metaphor for goodness in a time of great darkness. And, maybe today it's appropriate. But the song, The Impossible Dream, has often been imagined that it was a justification for our participation in the war in Vietnam. That it talks about righting the unrightable wrong, fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go. Now, a friend, on a recent cruise recently, I met a friend of Joe Darian, who was the lyricist, and he said he always worried that's what people would anticipate the song was about. However, he never himself thought about it at the time. But timing is everything. And that is exactly what people thought for a very long time, that it really was about the impossible, that our position in Vietnam. As you hear the lyrics of the song, you can decide for yourself. To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love poor and chased from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I lonely unreachable stars. Well, I sang twice today. There we go. Well, Cabaret again talked about how culture can change in a society. The story told through allegorical characters and the setting of this cabaret that is the metaphor for the decay of Germany that could have led to the rise of Nazism in the most horrific time period maybe ever in history. Cabaret has been reinvented and re-examined over the 50 years of its existence, and each time it's done, it becomes even more horrific than the time before. Now, when Cabaret was new, they decided they wanted to go for emotional casting, so to speak, and they cast Lotte Lenya, the widow of Kurt Weill, in the lead. Kurt Weill and she fled the Nazis. Their connection to the Threepenny Opera, which was considered an anti-governmental piece, certainly caused them to flee. I want to play this clip from Cabaret.
One thing that has never been duplicated, though, in the film, or the film almost got it, or this current version, and this was Hal's idea, and it was a really terrific one. In the original, the first time you hear "Tomorrow Belongs to Me," it's sung by 6 young waiters, and it's very pretty. And this was when the show was in 3 acts, and it was sung by these young guys in a very lyrical, dreamy kind of way. And at the intermission, audiences would feel, yeah, I'd like to be part of that. Wasn't that lovely? So that at the end of the second act, when it turns out to be a Nazi anthem, you're really stepping on their necks, because they would have, it's saying, you could have all been that. We could all be that.
How easy it is to be pulled in and romanced by that.
Right. Bobby found a good solution. Fosse found a good solution in the film, where you start off with this very idealized thing, and it's just pretty. And then as you pull back, you realize what it is. But I still don't think it's as effective as just letting the audience sit on it for a while.
The finale of Cabaret.
There was a cabaret, and there was a master of ceremonies, and there was a city called Berlin in a country called Germany, and it was the end of the world. And I was dancing with Sally Bowles, and we were both fast asleep. Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. Fremder, étranger, stranger.
Glücklich zu sehen, je suis enchanté. Happy to see you, bleibe, reste, stay. Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome. Im Cabaret, Cabaret, Cabaret. Meine Damen und Herren, Mesdames et Messieurs, Ladies and Gentlemen. Where are your troubles now? Forgotten? I told you so. We have no troubles. Here. Here. Life is beautiful. The girls are beautiful. Even the orchestra is beautiful.
children on their way to school. You understand?
I understand. One does what one must.
It'll all work out. It's only politics. And what has that got to do with us?
Be sensible. If the Nazis come, what other choice have I?
I know I'm right. After all, what am I? A German?
If you were a German, you would understand.
Auf Wiedersehen. À bientôt.
Wow. Gives us a lot to think about. The clip of Cabaret was 1998. It was filmed. It was done in 1996. I know there's so many comments here. I'm just trying to read. Thank you. I'm just that was Fred Ebb, who was the composer of Cabaret. And I'm just trying to read through the comments to see if there's anything that I need to answer. There's so many comments. Thank you for all the comments about singing this morning. I'm going to try to do it a little more often. People have been asking me, and it just felt odd, but I'll try to do it. I want to thank you all. We had a whole lot of people here today. At one point, we had about 150 people, which is, I'm so excited this is an important part of Friday morning. The one thing I would like to suggest is a couple people emailed me after we got going. They didn't get the link. If you know you don't have it by Monday morning, please email me. For some reason, it got blocked or whatever, and I can deal with it better then than I can at 10:30 on Friday morning. So we'll continue along next week. Please tell your friends if they want to do something on Friday morning that's fun that they haven't done yet, and please get them to participate. It's always wonderful for me to to see everybody and do this. I really look forward to it, and I thank you all for the positive feedback I get from you all participating with me as well. Thank you all. I'll see you next week. Don't forget to watch for your link. It'll come out over the weekend. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.